Hey, nerds.
What's up?
How are you? I'm sorry I call you nerds every time. I don't want to assume that you're a nerd. I assume you're nerd adjacent, but because you're here on this channel, but like, I guess I shouldn't make that assumption, should I? I'm sorry. Anyway, before we won't spend a whole lot of time going over stuff on the some of the comments on this one, but I do want to point out that Brogley, again in the Discord, provided a whole lot of citations for biblical imagery that directly inspired Hedwig's vision in the previous episode. Stuff like the dog returning to its own vomit. What was it? Proverbs 26:11. As a dog returneth to his vomit, so a fool returneth to his folly.
That's good.
That's very good. They also mentioned specifically that the imagery of God having a Masonic compass amounts to something like calling God an architect, like Aquinas, who we know Hedwig has read. Right. I won't go over it piece by piece because, again, this is not my territory of stuff that I know about, but it's super fascinating to know that there's this deep and rich backing behind everything that's happening with Hedwig. This isn't just imagery for its own sake. Like this clearly her drawing from sources that she knows and recognizes in her most desperate moments.
Author did the research.
Hell yeah, they did. Anyway, enough of that. Let's get back in there. I don't think we really have anything else we need to chat about since last time, but
I do appreciate that some of our viewership knows this stuff that we don't.
Right?
I only know bits and pieces because it's been years since I was in Sunday school and I never learned much deeper than that. So,
and I didn't learn basically anything. I was raised Methodist, which is like the Diet Coke of Christianity. So, and even that was too much for me, which, you know, gives you an idea. But regardless, anything was better than being caught red-handed with a broken bottle of ink, even burying myself in front of Moira and Eustace.
Beach episode.
Beach episode? I totally didn't leave my gauntlet over there, and there we go. There's something about her fully naked except for the habit.
Yeah.
I don't...
Is that the wimple? That part's the wimple,
that's
isn't
the wimple.
it?
That's the wimple. I'm sorry.
Let me double check that.
Forgive me for not
myself.
knowing the proper name of each part of the nun's outfit. That's my B.
I just want to make sure I got the right word there.
Yeah.
Because it's going to come up again.
It will. Moira was already in a tub by the time I arrived. She beamed as I entered the room. I kept my eyes low and deposited her change of clothes close to the edge of the wooden tub.
Ah, was Eustace waylaid?
No, that was Catherine. With a K.
What?
She got waylaid.
What?
Yes, Darcy needed her for something.
Well, thank you kindly.
I realized there were two tubs similar to the one I had used to bathe my first time out of my cell. At the very least, I was relieved I was about to submerge myself in water rather than stand awkwardly in one of the many smaller wash basins stacked against the wall. I had been using those to wash myself whenever I could squeeze in a trip to the baths alone after I discovered, to some horror, that communal bathing was considered the norm here. Hedwig doesn't like communal... Oh, I guess that checks out.
Hedwig has not been in the company of another human being in decades.
Yeah, actual decades. So, yeah, no, this checks out.
Simply being in the same room as someone is enough existential horror, much less taking a bath with them.
Yeah, right?
I thought 2 big tubs might be nice. The water's not hot, but it's pleasant.
You filled these up fast.
A miracle of engineering. An engineerical, if you will.
Oh, I will.
Thank you. This abbey is quaint, I will say, but I am very thankful for the thorough plumbing.
Is that common for abbeys to have thorough plumbing like that in this time period? I don't know.
I don't know about the history of plumbing.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
That's I obviously it existed then. Like that's not what I'm. Is it common for an abbey out in the fuck all middle of nowhere to have that, or is that another hint that this is maybe not what this place was designed to be?
I don't know. I do know that like having nice plumbing is surprisingly old, like Roman times old, but it's also like very not evenly distributed across time and space throughout Europe.
I knew the Romans had plumbing and shit. Like it was more like I don't know when it becomes something that everyone has access to versus this is a luxury that only like certain people will have.
Yeah. The builders didn't skimp on that, at the very least.
She raised an arm to point at the wall behind her, and I instinctively shut my eyes.
Oh, don't be silly. Anyway, the faucets are back there. They're quite quick.
I had my own faucet in my cell, actually. But I didn't know it was connected to anything greater.
Oh, you should take a walk around the cistern one of these days. It's quite fascinating. It's the oldest building here, if you can believe it.
The cistern? I actually kind of want to see that.
200 years old at least, and it serves the kitchen, the baths, the lavatorium, and keeps it all separate.
Wow, I'm glad to hear that it's all separate, at least.
I'd never feel comfortable here otherwise, but it's apparently not far off from the kind of water management you'd find in the richest castles.
She would never feel comfortable here otherwise. We're getting more and more hints that Moira is used to a different kind of standard of living than other folks.
Yeah.
Like, she wouldn't be comfortable here without that kind of thing. She has fancier boots she got as a gift.
Nice writing stuff.
Yeah.
A minimalist but luxurious room setup compared to the others.
Exactly. Because... And not far off from the kind of water magic. Yeah, okay, so that's indicating that it is kind of a more luxury thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Moira, what's your story? What's your story? Truly, we are blessed. Is Moira? When did Moira get to the Abbey? Have we learned that?
I don't know. It might not always feel that way, but yes, I think we are.
How does it, work?
I must admit I couldn't tell you. Sister Catherine showed me a diagram she found in the library once, but it was a bit complicated for me. I know much more about how bodies work than buildings, I'm afraid. Speaking of...
She leveled a finger at me with a mischievous glint in her eye.
Are you going to get in the bath? You're looming a bit.
Oh, I do like to loom.
Go on. I'll shut my eyes, I promise.
She squeezed her eyes shut in a fashion that she might have intended to be jovial, but I couldn't help but feel condescended to. Nevertheless, I sighed and began gingerly to shed my layers. I balled up my damp clothes next to the empty tub and then stepped in as quickly as I could. If I could avoid being seen at all, that would have been grand.
I take it you're in?
I am. Hedwig, out here not liking the desperate crime of being witnessed. The water was not as warm as the bath Darcy had drawn for me after I had first left my cell, but it was still a relief to sink into it. Moira opened her eyes again, blinking comically.
This is nice.
Indeed. Is this the first time we've seen any part of Hedwig on screen?
We saw part of her during the previous bath scene.
Right. I sank as low as I could and pulled my knees up to my chest. With my chin resting in the water, I could still peer at Moira over the lip of the tub. I did not want to be seen. Yeah, but I also did not want to be rude. So at the very least, I maintained eye contact.
Black and blue.
Excuse me?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just thinking aloud. Your humors, they're black and blue, aren't they?
Well...
Mostly black, with a little phlegm for color. Does that sound about right?
No points for guessing that, I reckon. Eustace had appeared in the doorway. She was already removing her hood as the door closed. I looked away out of modesty as soon as I saw that she was casually shedding all of her clothes and haphazardly tossing them aside as she walked.
Well, it's my job to notice these things.
To me next.
That's easy. You are as phlegmy as they come, with just as much yellow bile sloshing around in there for good measure.
Is this some Myers-Briggs bullshit that we're doing right now? It feels like some Myers-Briggs bullshit.
You're like a big, clever soup.
Goodness gracious, when are we eloping?
Moira laughed, and I could hear her flick some water in Eustace's direction. And then I realized something that gave me an instant sinking feeling.
Oh then, who am I sharing with?
Oh, good question. I didn't really think about that.
Well, hurry up and decide. It's getting nippy out here. It's getting a tit-bit nipply.
Can we, not get a third tub?
We only have the 2 big ones.
We could play a game to decide.
Too late. Made my mind up.
I braced myself, but the splashing sounds that followed came from the other tub. Because, I mean, obviously, otherwise they couldn't draw Eustace in the scene.
Yeah. Or it would be a weird angle.
Mm-hmm. Was this the first time seeing Eustace's hair?
Yeah.
Wow. Notably, we don't get to see Moira's hair at all.
Yeah.
Weird. I opened my eyes to see Eustace looking nonplussed as ever, sitting next to Moira, who seemed wholly unperturbed. Thank God, I thought.
I've, never seen you without your cap, Hedwig. Guess you'd had black hair, but I suppose I'm still surprised to see it.
Okay, so Hedwig has black hair.
Really? I feel like I knew the moment I saw her.
Are my humors that pronounced?
Yes, but whose aren't?
You put much more stock in that sort of thing than I do, I suppose.
Well, it is my duty to know.
True enough.
What color do you think my hair is, Hedwig?
Okay, so they're calling attention to it.
You're always wearing that thing in the bath, but I think I know.
I'm asking Hedwig.
Moira was still wearing her cap. What do we know about Moira? She's from Ireland, right?
Yep.
That's about all we know?
Yep.
She gestured at her head, dripping water onto Eustace's bushy brown hair in the process. I wouldn't really know how to deduce that.
Take a wild guess.
I frowned, squinting at Moira's eyebrows from across the room. Some sort of, I don't know, dark brown? Just chestnut brown?
Does the accent not give it a ow?
Okay, yeah, all right. I just... Moira elbowed Eustace, chuckling.
No cheating.
It feels like there's a clue you want me to recognize that I'm just not seeing.
Hearing.
Top of the morning to you, Hedwig.
I don't get it.
Oh my God.
Don't say that.
With an impish...
I almost started narrating Eustace's voice. With an impish grin, Moira tugged her cap up a little. A few locks of her jet black hair draped across her face.
Oh. Huh.
Just like you, Hedwig.
How nice.
Consider me surprised.
Did you expect a fiery Irish redhead?
You win.
I genuinely had no idea what she was talking about. In fact, I was slightly irritated. I hadn't expected anything. How could I have? Even the considerate and kind Moira couldn't remember that until recently my entire world had been a few meters across.
Sorry for the misdirect. I couldn't help myself.
Red-headed? Like King David?
Huh?
King David had red hair.
I thought he had brown hair. What's it say in the Bible?
There he's described as Rufus, which means red-headed.
Oh. I always took that to mean he was, red-faced. As in his whole head was red.
Really? I could see that interpretation, but
Besides, in Song of Solomon 1, right? Or in Song of Solomon, I remember thusly. Delectus meus candidus et rubicundus.
My lover is red-headed, his hair curly and black.
Caput aegis aurum optimum, comae aegis sicut illate, palmarum nigri, quasi corvus. Golden face is used similarly to red-headed here, I should think.
You might be right. Is this the second time that Hedwig has gotten schooled on Bible trivia?
I think so, yeah.
Which is weird, right? For the person who's spent her whole life studying that.
But she's also not had a chance to talk about it with people. Like,
What are you
if
talking? That's literally like half of what she did was people would like come up with her and ask her about specific things in the Bible, and she'd be like, "Boom, got you." It was her job to know that.
And almost
stuff.
no one would show up to talk to her.
True.
But also, like, imagine if you were sent off to become a physicist, and the way it was done is you were locked in a room and given a supply of all the best physics books that exist at that time, and that's it. You don't get to actually work hands-on with physics. You don't get to discuss it with others.
Is this Mary in Red?
Not at all. Not at all. You don't get to discuss it with others, and you're just left to kind of do your best with book learning alone, solo. You'd end up with all kinds of misapprehensions, wouldn't you?
Okay, I think I see what you're getting at.
I frequently read stuff and think I get it, and I don't realize until I talk about
Until
it with
you
others.
talk about it with other people that you've internalized the wrong thing.
Yeah,
that's
knowledge is socially grounded.
Yeah,
and
that's fair.
Hedwig has the book learning, but book learning itself isn't enough to get everything right, understand what matters, and
I
what's
guess
the best way to
my
interpret.
hang up is that I thought there would be a difference in that between practical knowledge of things that you use to do things, and literal trivia. Like,
Well,
I think if you set someone in a room with a book of, like, here's a bunch of factoids, memorize them, they'd be able to parrot them when they came out. They might have misapprehensions about what they mean, but, like, they should still know them.
I think there's a sense in which this is practical knowledge, right? Like linguistics knowledge about how do we interpret this one particular term.
Right, because she's reading in Latin and...
Yeah, and it's like, we're reading this in Latin. It seems to be one thing, but it's used in ways that don't quite make sense that way in other ways. Then we have a substratum of the other languages it was translated from to begin with, and... like,
yeah, okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, you've turned me around on this. You might be right.
This is so exciting. I'm caught between two true scholars. It's like I'm at a real council.
A real council? Council of what?
It's
Like the
our,
Council of Nicaea or
Oh, I see.
any of
It's
those.
our job, Moira.
That's right.
Still, I like Hedwig's interpretation. It's fun to think about David having red hair. It's dramatic.
I didn't care for Moira's use of the word interpretation here. Either Eustace was correct or I was, and I didn't much like the idea of being wrong, but I was grateful for the support. Interesting. This also gives us a nice little window into how Hedwig thinks here.
The Bible is inerrant, and the Bible is
Right?
the framework for what we know, so there is just correct and incorrect.
Right. So and she's follows that through. She's willing to be like, Eustace might be right here, but like one of us has to be right about, or
Mhm.
you know, they can't both be correct. There can only be like one interpretation of what it means. That's fascinating. You are a fascinating character, Hedwig, who we've only see the tops of her kneecaps. Which is, honestly, if you told me that we'd only see like one part of Hedwig's body, I would not have guessed kneecaps. Just the kneecaps. Conversation subsided for a while, and I became all too aware of the fact that this was a peculiar state for the three women who had been at each other's throats earlier in the day to find themselves. I worried that Eustace and Moira had felt the same way and prodded them with questions. So, do you all do this often?
I should hope so. Bathing is very important for your health.
I think she means, together.
Oh, yes, well, it's a little embarrassing at first, I suppose, but it's efficient, isn't it?
I don't really plan around it, but there's enough of us here that you're gonna run into someone else eventually.
It's how things are done the world over. The Romans had huge communal bathhouses. Monks washed together too. I must admit, though, a private bath every now and then is to die for.
I suppose I've been lucky. Whenever I've come to use a wash basin so far, I've been all by myself.
Is it difficult? Being around other people, I mean. I really should have made sure this wouldn't be too big of a leap for you, especially after the day you've had.
You like to be very considerate of Hedwig's situation only after you've already put her in that situation, Moira. You like to get the credit for thinking of how Hedwig's going to feel, but don't have to actually, like, plan around it. I see you. I also like... Do you see our location right now?
Liar.
I'm quite all right. There's going to be other times we've missed stuff like that. We've caught it a lot of times, but that was for one line.
Yeah.
That was one line where that changed over to saying liar. If you catch us missing a moment where the location changes to something dramatic, let us know.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to scrub like line by line, obviously, but that location indicator has been putting in much more work than I ever expected it to.
Yeah.
But I'd rather that no one looked at me.
Ever?
That's right. What?
Ever? Like, yep.
No, not while I'm in the nude, certainly. It's nothing.
We haven't seen before.
They spoke in unison. Eustace down low and Moira way up high. Wait, Eustace has a low voice? I've been...
Well, I guess this could be a little bit lower. I mean, maybe I could kind of have a little bit of a whine, but I could kind of bring it down some and around here. How's that sound? Eustace Misericorde ASMR hour.
Still, all the same.
But I understand.
If I take my spectacles off, you'll just be a pale smudge. Would that help?
Well, I'd prefer that over being defined.
Right you are. Pump them off when it's time to dry off.
I like that Hedwig is at least consistent. Not only does she not want to go through the mortifying ordeal of being seen, she doesn't want to be known either. It's not like we want the shortcut. She just wants to go back in the room.
Yeah, exactly. Oh.
By the way, Eustace, are you ever worried you'll drop your eyeglasses in the water? Those are really expensive, surely.
Unbelievably. I'm lucky to have them.
They're huge. I dread to think how much they cost.
Is glass expensive?
Very.
Oh goodness, yes. I'm sure you've noticed that there aren't too many glass windows here.
We could afford them in the bathroom, though?
Let me think. There's the Superior's office window, the chapel.
I've had these for a very long time, and I hope that they last. My sight's always been dreadful, but could always get worse, right?
Goodness, I'll pray for your sake.
Eustace is going to lose her glasses come EP3. 2/3 of the way through EP3, calling it now.
I wouldn't... Wait, what? Couching? What does that mean? I wouldn't wish couching on my worst enemy.
We're missing some context here. Couching. Oh. Couching?
You cut the eye open and then... Oh, I won't go into details.
You want to Google that one for us, friendo?
Yeah, that sounds bad.
Thank you, I think. What's up?
It's for cataracts. So, cataracts have always been a thing.
Right.
And cataract surgery has existed since looks like at least 800 BC.
800?
In
Whoa,
India?
Okay. That's earlier than I thought.
But what it involved was simply you'd cut the eye open, and then because the lens would be what's fucked up with a cataract, you'd just push it out of the path of vision or remove it. So now you don't have a lens anymore, but there's no longer anything cloudy blocking your vision.
Huh. What would it be like to see like that? Because the lens is what focuses stuff to the back of the eye, right?
Yeah.
So you no longer have that Wow. Huh.
It's performed still in some areas of the world.
Interesting. Does it work? Were people happy with the results?
According to Wikipedia, quote, couching is a largely unsuccessful technique with abysmal outcomes. A minority of patients may regain low or moderate visual acuity, but over 70% are left clinically blind with worse than 2400 vision.
Well, okay.
And if you want to know what it's like to have vision without a lens, aphakia is the term to look up. But I'm going to stop going down a Wikipedia hole. But I do want to know the answer to that.
Yeah, I'm
So
going
I'll
to
look that up later.
That sounds fascinating.
I didn't realize that this was a thing that they could do already in this time. I'm learning so much history.
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess. All right, lead us back in.
So, Eustace, tell us, how did you afford those?
That's a little forward, don't you think?
True, but, well, we're already in the bath, aren't we?
Fair enough. I did some work for a glassmaker a long time ago, and I took these instead of monetary payment.
Oh, what sort of work?
Same as I do here, really. Information organization.
So she could do that well enough without glasses to earn them glasses.
Yeah, so I guess she's got... Because, like, we both have... I always forget which one is farsighted or nearsighted.
Right.
We're nearsighted, right?
Yeah,
we can't see stuff
shit
that's
that's far away.
Yeah, so if you're nearsighted, then, like, going through books and stuff is probably fine if it's not too bad.
Yep.
I can't read books without my glasses due to being nearsighted
Right.
enough, but a lot of people can still read books just fine without glasses.
Yeah.
So maybe...
By the way,
there's
I
that.
actually had to lower my glasses to remind myself which one was which.
I just know
Just popped over the top real quick. Oh, right. I can't see that shit.
I just know glasses not on, world get blurry, can't see good.
Maintaining a library. Managing orders, logging events, that sort of thing.
I was about to say that sounds like a lot of work even for a pair of glasses, but I suppose none of us are being paid at all here.
I get by fine. I don't miss the old job.
What made you come here?
Well, I had always wanted to retire to the countryside. Once I had a sturdy pair of eyeglasses, I reasoned, what else could I possibly want for?
Oh, I don't know. A rich husband, a beautiful home.
I never wanted those things.
Nor I.
I did once upon a time.
Is Eustace being glib, or is that actually like... He was like... saying, oh, why not retire to the countryside is in a monastery. I think there's a difference between retiring to... Is she being a little glib?
Maybe. I don't know. Or maybe...
did she actually choose to be here to take this job?
I don't know. Now, though, I agree with you two, I think. At the very least, it'd take more than that to get me away from here.
You know, over the past few weeks, I've been so overwhelmed by everything new to me here. I'm not sure I'll ever truly get used to it. The slave of asceticism might feel simple to you, but it'll never be simple to me. I was prepared to spend my whole life with much less than all this.
That is a very helpful perspective, actually.
Yeah. It's important to keep in mind, I think.
Are you feeling better after everything that happened today, Hedwig?
I don't know. Most of all, I just feel embarrassed. As I feel about my behavior in the Misericorde, yet still.
Forget about it.
Yes, there's no need to worry, really. I think I would fare worse if I were in your shoes. And we can help you get better. In fact, I think it's our responsibility.
Perhaps it was because we were all relaxed from our baths, or perhaps there was something to be said for being naked and vulnerable in a room with other people after all, but the second round of apologies for the day felt genuine. I wondered how the ink on Moira's floor was faring. It was hard to relax with that in the back of my mind. The conversation slowed down as we all focused on washing and scrubbing, and I soon realized that the most difficult challenge has yet to come. When we're all done and it's time to, get dressed, could I go first?
Of course, but why?
Well, it's just like we've been talking about. I'm not used to all of this, and,
It's a bit embarrassing.
yes, that's it exactly.
Won't it be more embarrassing having us just sitting here and watching you?
Don't confuse her.
Just trying to help.
No, she's right. I mean, the most embarrassing of all would be all of us at once.
Why is that?
Because then you'll both see me and I'll see both of you and we'll be close to each other and
What if Eustace and I both close our eyes?
that would work.
Would it?
Or what if you two went first and I close my eyes? That seems more, I don't know, efficient?
Yeah, efficient for you, Hedwig.
I wasn't aware that efficiency was a concern. How do we like low Eustace voice, by the way? Are we enjoying this? I feel like it's still true to how I've been talking with her, but just gives her a little bit more of a low register. Honestly, this is the most I've ever had to think about being naked.
Hedwig, I appreciate the offer, but I'm happy with letting you go first.
And closing our eyes?
Yes, don't be difficult. We just said we'd do our best to make her comfortable.
I have no problem with that broadly, but doesn't it feel a bit weird to worry this much about seeing each other in the buff? Naked I came from my mother's womb and all that. Who cares?
That's not for us to judge.
It is a little bit. What about Matthew 5:28 or Leviticus 18:9?
Do we want to? Yeah, let's go ahead. We'll see in a sec.
So, the Matthew one is pretty spicy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a pretty well-known one that you might have heard before. And it goes a little something like this. But I say unto you, that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her, hath committed adultery with her already in his heart.
That's pretty telling that Hedwig
Gay!
would... That's pretty telling Hedwig would go for that one. Leviticus 18:9. These are both King James, by the way. The nakedness of thy sister, thy daughter of thy father, or daughter of thy mother, whether she be born at home or born abroad, even their nakedness thou shalt not uncover.
Was uncovering one's nakedness specifically a reference to sexual activities?
I have no idea, and I have no idea how to Google that without...
I need to bust out the old, Oxford Study Bible or whatever, because I'm sure there's a real answer to that.
Yeah. But the Matthew one definitely seemed very telling. And Leviticus was specifically about family. Like, don't look upon your sister.
Yeah.
That I don't think Hedwig is family to anyone here. She has family. But I don't think it was meant to be any...
Yeah,
I think is she just pulling from this is about nakedness in general, or are we meant to read a little bit into it?
With a quick Google, I am seeing that folks seem to agree with what I thought, that uncovering nakedness was indeed used as a euphemism for committing sexual sin.
So Leviticus is saying don't
Is
commit
also
incest?
saying, yeah.
Okay. Why would... I mean, I guess it has the word... It references nudity,
Yeah,
but
it
it's
uses
not,
the word nakedness, but it's like...
But that's not what it's about.
Yeah, either Hedwig doesn't know that, and we're continuing the theme of she knows the literal book-learning meaning of all of these things, but not the deeper meaning. Or... gay.
Well... yeah, I guess. Huh.
I suppose we'll find out.
Again with the Leviticus, we're not actually sisters, you know. I don't think that passage applies. Sister is the term of formal address, and it has nothing to do with being actual siblings of any sort. I know you know that.
Eustace being a little shit, and I'm here for it.
She was right, of course, but that just irritated me more. I had really been counting on my superior scriptural knowledge to excuse me from being personally embarrassed, but alas.
Thinking about it, Hedwig, I know this might be difficult, but how about we all just try doing it the normal way? Getting out and getting dressed all at once. I think Eustace is right to some degree.
Judas! Wow, Hedwig, settle the hell down, girl.
In what sense?
That it'll be more difficult in the long run if you don't get used to it.
I don't think that's anything you need to worry about. I'll just keep bathing alone when there's no one else here.
Can we make the decision before I get too pruny?
I think we should all get out on the count of 3.
You said you weren't going to push me as far anymore.
Hedwig, there are 3 of us here and we all like each other. You had a tough day in the village, but you made it back in one piece. Surely this will be easy compared to what you went through around all those strangers. I don't want to push you, but I also want to help you. And part of that, I think, might involve pushing you just a little bit.
She's right, you know.
If I have no choice. I had nothing left to argue with. My day had been thoroughly confusing, and if mingling naked with my shameless sisters was to be the capstone to the whole affair, then so be it. I don't think it was Moira's argument that convinced me, however. Or rather, it might have, but only because it made me consider the full weight of what I had seen in my vision. I didn't know what it meant, but I certainly felt compelled by a newfound drive to stop stalling in every little aspect of my life.
You do have a choice, but...
Let's get this over with. So what if I get a glimpse of your,
Suck it.
Belle shows.
Good lord, that's old-fashioned.
I'm a fancy little lady at heart.
Yes, you are, Moira.
I took a deep breath and braced my arms against the edge of the tub. Eustace, however, was already standing up and drying herself off with a towel and... You know, I've been meticulously detailed about almost every aspect of my day outside my cell. But would you mind if I glossed over the rest of this? I don't particularly feel like describing Eustace and Moira's bodies any further. Or my own, for that matter.
Yeah, she never loves to talk about her own body. Can I sidebar real quick here?
Mm-hmm.
Someone in the Discord made, I don't remember who it was, but they made a while back, they made like a long shot call that maybe Hedwig isn't Hedwig.
Mm.
And I'm like, that's fascinating. I don't know what that would get us, but all of this talk about not wanting to overanalyze her own body, all this thing about where she doesn't quite know as much as she's supposed to for her station, or how Flora is like, oh, you don't look quite right for your age. That kind of like, There's weird seeds planted there, and I don't know why that would be the case.
That's an interesting thought.
Yeah, again, I don't know. Hedwig is the handsome man. We solved it. We solved it. Hey, round of applause. I don't know what that gets us, but it's worth noting that there's an argument to be made there. And it would work because no one's ever seen her.
Mm-hmm.
Except maybe the super would have to be in on it. But.
I've excised several minor details from my story as it is, after all. I've been exhaustive, I will grant that, but I haven't told you every last meal I've eaten. Not told you about every trip I've taken to the privies. I think our conversation in the baths was relevant information, but I think it will suffice to say that I did not enjoy getting dressed in front of my colleagues. But I was very brave about it. You can rest assured of that.
Very brave, Hedwig.
Pruning is just as much my responsibility as a chronicler's cataloging, wouldn't you agree? What is important about this ordeal is that I was actually quite courageous and did not make any sort of scene at all.
Doubt.
I got dressed alongside everyone else and we departed the baths without incident. Incident, however, was not too far away.
I definitely didn't cry and throw up and pass out.
Hedwig is literally crying and throwing up and passing out. You gotta stop doing that to yourself, girl.
As we passed the rectory on the way to the cloister, Moira gently grabbed my wrist.
Ah, Hedwig, why don't we go in here?
Whatever for?
I have something I want to show you.
In the rectory?
Yeah, I should go in.
I was completely bewildered. The pair positioned themselves on either side of me and pushed me toward the steps up toward the large wooden door. Oh no, I thought, this is it. They knew I'm nosing around about Catherine with the C's death. They were in cahoots. They were going to have me killed. No, I think I'd like to stay outside if it's all the same to you. We're back to being in danger.
Stop wriggling.
Let's just go inside. It won't take a moment.
Are they doing like a surprise party or something?
No, thank you. What are you doing? I'll screw. I was pushed through the large wooden doors. I stumbled backward into the room, bumping my backside into a chair that I held onto to stay upright. Gingerly, I turned around and...
Took you long enough.
A crowd was gathered around the rectory table, which was itself so laden with food that I could scarcely believe it hadn't buckled. Everyone present was smiling widely, and I felt assured at the very least that I was not about to be murdered in a dark room.
Instead, I was going to be murdered in a very bright room with tons of people.
Oh, nothing like getting murdered with a bunch of witnesses around.
Welcome back, Hedwig. How was the village?
It was, a valuable experience.
I'm glad to hear it.
What's all this?
A few days ago, some of the sisters approached me with a reminder that St. Cecilia's feast day was approaching. Which, if I am not mistaken, would be the feast day closest to your date of birth, yes?
I think so. I had never had much need to track my birthdays whilst I was an anchoress. Christmas was my mental marker for the passage of time. Although once I thought about it, I did remember receiving a more handsomely prepared meal once every autumn for a few years when I was still a child in my cell.
St. Cecilia's Day.
To be fair, it's a feast day just about every day of the week. For some saint or other.
Yeah, I know, but still. 22 November, St. Cecilia's Day.
Who was St. Cecilia?
St. Cecilia. St. Cecilia was a Roman virgin martyr and is venerated in Catholic, Orthodox, Anglican, and some Lutheran churches, such as the Church of Sweden. She became the patroness of music and musicians.
Oh, cool.
Oh. Musical compositions are dedicated to her, and her feast is on 22 November. Is the occasion of concerts and musical festivals, also known as Cecilia of Rome.
Now we know.
Now you know.
Your friends suggested we celebrate. I must admit, St. Cecilia's Day is one that we have oft neglected to mark with a proper feast day. But we all agreed it would be appropriate to throw a little bash for you, and for her saintliness, of course.
I don't know what to say.
Start with thanks, and we can go from there.
Darcy, remaining the best.
Everyone chuckled. I smiled graciously, even though Darcy's remark felt far more cutting than she likely intended. How rude of me. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you all very much. Everyone murmured appreciatively in response and moved toward their seats. Moira patted me on the back as she walked to her seat with a twinkle in her eye. Everyone began plating food from the generous piles of poultry, fish, and vegetables in front of them. I thought I recognized some of the carrots I had helped Darcy harvest not long ago. A plump roast duck sat in the center of the table. It all looked and smelled delicious.
What if this is the entire reason they couldn't go back early? And that all Moira was saying to Eustace is, they're still getting the feast ready. We can't go back now because it'll ruin the surprise.
That's really all it was. That's really all it was, wasn't it?
And Moira isn't actually suspicious.
No, she's still suspicious. She's still suspicious, but just not of this one specific thing.
I apologize for the little ruse. Moira suggested the surprise.
This is actually really clever. Because it gives the soup a reason to have sent Hedwig specifically to go deliver fritters, rather than any of the other nuns who would have been better suited for it. So that gives a cover for Hedwig's reason to go. You're a clever one.
Guilty.
Wait, Moira suggested it?
Yeah. Moira did.
Again, trying to get in our good graces, and that's only making me more suspicious.
Everyone here contributed a little, however. Isn't that right? I do believe it was my general idea at first, if we're collecting accolades. Yes, but I remembered the feast day. Darcy somehow found time to direct the preparation of this meal and bake those wonderful fritters of hers to take to the village. Speaking of, did any of those make it back?
Oh, no, we gave everything away.
A shame, but not a surprise. I'm sure the town couldn't get enough of them.
Uh-huh.
We all helped in the kitchen too. I was distracted for a moment. Yes, Margaret, Adela, and Flora all graciously helped prepare the meal while you were in the baths. Which, let us not forget, I had drawn beforehand.
Wasn't a spontaneous suggestion on Moira's part?
This is all so elaborate.
It's like they're giving us a little primer, and like people will do elaborate things sometimes.
Nobody has ever done anything like this for me before.
And don't you forget it.
Another chuckle went around the whole table. I smiled weakly. Tears were welling up behind my eyes. Oh, Arta and I had the most important duty of taste testing.
That's right. And guess who set the table?
Well, thank you all very much. This is,
How come Adela didn't get her sprayed on screen, huh? Everyone else gets to show up for the scene, and Adela's just like, nah, except for you.
I could feel everyone staring at me expectantly. This really is wonderful. I choked my words out, overcome with too many emotions at once, mercifully being on the verge of sobbing past a simple gratitude to everyone else present. And then I vomited everywhere, as is my habit of doing at times of extreme emotion. I was thankful, but I was also confused, anxious, hurt, terrified. As I mentioned too many things at once. I did not deserve any of this. I was not anyone's friend. I was a liar and a sneak. A dog set loose in the coop to root out a fox. I gawked across the table at the superior, who smiled back at me. I found it incredible that nobody had caught us in the puppet strings connecting her and I as they reached between us for food.
That's a good turn of phrase. I like that.
The puppet strings between us?
That nobody got caught in the puppet strings between us.
Oh, nobody got caught
as I reached for the food.
Yeah.
It's like I am being wielded by the superior, and it's incredible that has not entangled everyone else here by this point.
Yeah, that's a really good turn of phrase.
And as it is St. Cecilia's feast day, I will be performing a little composition of mine in the chapel after our meal concludes.
Because
Fetch
she's
me
the
the portative. I finally did go and look up what does a portative organ sound like.
Yep.
It's cool as fuck. I'll make you listen after. I actually liked it quite a bit. It's a neat little instrument.
All right.
Think of like, you know, you like make an accordion go with the bellows?
Yes.
And think about how an organ you do not make go with a little bellows. An organ is a big, huge fucking thing.
Yes.
Well, what if an organ was small and you made it go with a little bellows like an accordion? That's basically all there is to it.
I see. That sounds adorable, actually.
It has a kind of weird, haunting sound to it.
Sounds like the kind of thing that should show up in, like, a Neurosis track at one point.
Yeah, that'd fuck.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like a post-metal atmospheric instrument waiting to happen.
If anyone would like to join me for a rehearsal beforehand, I would appreciate the assistance. Margaret, Catherine. There's nowhere we'd rather be, but I do think we have some urgent matters to attend to once this is over. Urgent. Well, we were helping prepare all this for most of the day. I have some important tasks I set aside. It was my pleasure, just so you know, Hedwig.
Oh, of course.
Well, if it is urgent, of course you may be excused.
Margaret's like, no, shut up. I've got this.
Since when is anything around here urgent? Ow.
Flora glared at Catherine, who maintained an utterly innocent expression.
To everyone else, barring any emergencies, you are invited and encouraged to assist. Either way, we must all convene in the chapel later.
This was met with a ripple of non-committal murmuring. I could tell the food was excellent, as was to be expected, but as I ate, I felt like I was sitting next to myself. Could not taste the juicy duck or the rich gravy. I was having it described to me secondhand. Everything I could taste, smell, hear, and see felt like it wasn't really there.
Are you feeling well, Sister Hedwig?
Huh? Oh, my apologies. I've just had a long day, and now I'm dissociating at the dinner table.
Did you hear the exclamation point in the middle there?
Yeah.
Oh, what's it like going down to the village, dearie? That must have been quite an adventure for you.
It was. I'm afraid I did not adjust to the experience as well as I could have.
It was all a bit stressful, but I think she'll do better next time. Perhaps a picnic or some such. Yes, we more or less came up with the same idea, didn't we, Hedwig?
That's right.
Wonderful news. I do apologize for the stressful assignment, Hedwig. It was the best I could come up with on short notice.
She took a sip of wine, but kept her eyes on me. Well, I suppose it was all worth it for this.
Hear, hear.
Although I am not sure. I was not sure that I was worth all this trouble. I'm not sure how I can repay you for all this. You've all been very kind, and well...
You do not have to repay us for any of this. Absolutely not. That isn't the point.
I like how Darcy is very good at like cutting to the heart of things.
Yeah.
It like very like.
I talk slow, so I get to the point quickly, so we get there in the same amount of time. If you really must feel like you're doing something for us in turn, you could keep your self-flagellation to a minimum.
You could indulge us in some questions about yourself as well. You've been out of that little cell for weeks now, and I still don't feel like I know you as well as I should.
That's a fantastic idea. If she's up to it.
No escape. I'll do my best.
Oh, in that case, where are you from?
Germany is where I was born.
We got a specific location from her, like Trier? Was that it?
Yeah, I feel like it was Trier.
Trier? Yeah.
But I don't remember anything about it.
Hedwig von Trier.
I suppose you could say that I'm from here?
You do not remember anything about where you were born.
There's a whole left side of the screen. Let Adela show up.
Wait, what if it's a bug? What if Adela is supposed to be there on the left side of the screen? What if that's why there's that space?
Oh, weird. Maybe. Because that's like the second time she was meant to appear and didn't.
Yeah.
Huh.
There's very little I can recall about my life before I took my oaths, I'm afraid.
Oh, is there anything at all you can remember? Any particular places? Your parents?
No, I don't have any recollections of my mother or father. I'm sorry.
Oh, crumbs. There's no need to apologize. I just can't imagine what that's like.
Don't listen to her, Hedwig. That sounds positively blissful.
Catherine has a good relationship with her parents, Catherine.
Hedwig von Linbarrow.
I do remember one thing, though. I think.
I do like Hedwig von Linbarrow.
It's hard to know, in fact, if it's a memory at all, but at the very least something I know I could never have picked up in my cell. Everyone leaned forward slightly. I remember the smell of the ocean.
That's all?
For the most part, yeah. There are little bits and pieces I associate with that smell if I try my hardest to recall, but nothing substantial.
Ah, there she is.
There she is.
There she is. Welcome to the party, Adela.
I was just about to say the smell of the ocean is one of my strongest memories as well. You and I have more in common than I expected, Sister Hedwig.
Because they're both from mainland Europe, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So they would have, at minimum, would have had to cross the sea to get there.
Can you speak any other languages?
I don't think so. My grasp of our own language leaves much to be desired. Not sure a second one would find purchase in my head. Although I have been watching like entry-level Spanish videos as I'm falling to sleep at night just to kind of immerse myself in the language.
Shots fired.
I'm not making fun of you. Not every little observation is a joke at your expense.
And yet, perhaps you could forget a few phrases like find purchase to make room. Catherine.
I remember the saltiness of the sea, and if I try hard enough, I think I could describe the sound of waves, but beyond that, my earliest memories are, well, the office of the dead.
Ah, how beautiful.
Office of the Dead. Is that like a rite that's performed when someone is anchored?
Yeah, I think this got brought up at the beginning, right? That they go over the same rituals they would for someone who had died when they lock you up in the cell, because it's as though you're dead to the world. You're never to leave. You'll die in there. So,
Gotcha.
Why not go ahead and do the death ritual right now?
Again, another death flag for Hedwig somehow.
So her first memory is her own death.
That's really morbid, yeah.
I love that. A bit morbid for a first memory.
I don't find it morbid. It's a very comforting memory, actually.
The bishop read it for you, I presume? I would have liked to have witnessed that. It was before my time. 20 years ago, I had just taken my vows at Bournegrove.
Yes, all in all, I remember it being quite a moving ceremony.
Oh, that's lovely.
I'm glad it's a positive memory for you.
After that, it mostly becomes a blur. Not in a bad way, more like the rest of my life up to this very recently was one long meditation.
Things tend to move faster and slower all at once in a small place, don't they?
No.
Time is the same always, I think. That makes a fair bit of sense to me, actually.
Interesting to see people's thoughts on this.
It certainly describes how I felt after moving here.
Yeah, because you were used to life down in Linbarrow Village.
Which reminds me, how were my old stomping grounds, Hedwig? Did anyone mention me?
She shot me an oddly piercing look. No. I'm afraid not.
A shame. I'm sure the place is falling apart without me. The grapes they've been sending up to us haven't been tasting as good ever since you left. You know what? I think you're right. Eat. We mustn't let all this food go to waste, and we're due in the chapel for that little recital.
Everyone groaned, and the table-wide conversation dissipated as the sisters ate their fill. My stomach was still rather uneasy. I tried to eat as much of the admittedly delicious meal as I could, but I could not keep up with any of the others. I watched the others eat as I picked at my own plate. I couldn't help but notice that Angela was not present.
I was going to say, we've been missing her for this entire moment here.
Yeah.
I was not surprised that an event even partially in my honor did not interest her. I was inclined to agree with Angela's assessment. I was not worth this level of pageantry. As I forced the last bits of food down my throat, all I could think of was disappointment Moira would feel as soon as she entered the dorms. Her unwarranted kindness toward me would dissipate instantly as soon as she realized what had happened. Looked across the table at her innocent, smiling face. She would hate me the instant she truly knew me. The piles of food slowly wore down to nothing. Conversation began to start back up again, albeit quieter and calmer. Everyone, it seemed, was at peace after this decadent meal in my name.
I'll never get tired of your cooking, Darcy.
Thanks, I will never get tired of doing it.
Get you a BFF like Darcy and Eustace got going on here.
Thank goodness for that. Really good work, Darce.
Everyone chimed in with murmured agreement. Even Flora, who looked uncharacteristically content. It was a lovely meal, Darcy. Thank you, everyone.
If you would all excuse me, I must go and prepare for the recital while this gets cleaned up.
Excusing herself from the dishes. I see you, Soup.
Would you assist me, Hedwig?
Yes, Superior.
On her own feast day? What did she do to deserve this?
More than Catherine could know.
It feels like too much to just be self-hatred, right? Is she like... What
Does it? That all feels really relatable.
It does feel really relatable, but it's also very on the nose.
I don't mind. In truth, I couldn't wait to be free to the crowded rectory, if only for a few minutes. I gave the sisters a polite bow of my head and followed the superior out of the room. The rain had ceased just as our meal had concluded. We walked briskly along the path between the rectory and the chapel. The evening air was cool and pleasant after the rain, although dark clouds were still threatening above us. The superior seemed oddly tense as we approached the large doors.
Somehow I knew nobody would volunteer to help me in the chapel, but it made for a good show, don't you think? Nobody will suspect a thing.
My apologies, Superior, but I have no idea what you mean. She did not reply. The Superior opened the heavy chapel door for me and ushered me inside. I obliged, and then let out an embarrassing yelp as I saw two people waiting for me inside.
What?
What? Oh, are these the folks here to carry out the sentencing?
That doesn't seem to be the right timing.
No, because it seems like she had a little more time to work.
Yeah, so who are these? I suppose we'll find out.
One was large and stately. I did not recognize him. The other...
It is about time.
Hi, Angela.
My apologies, Sister Angela.
Angela had been sitting in a pew near the altar, but she had risen to meet us as soon as the door opened. There was no mistaking her lanky form, even in the dim evening light. The person sitting next to her, however...
Sister Hedwig, you have met this man before, although you may not recognize him. It's the bishop. That's the bishop.
Are we really doing that?
We don't have to, but I found that very funny. No one can hear him through his beard.
His gigantic, no one can hear him through his beard. You know what? No, we'll do it once. It's a fun little callback, and now we'll give him like a... Oh, I wish it could be made under more pleasant circumstances, my child, but it's nonetheless a pleasure to see you in the flesh once more. That way people listening will be able to actually understand what's happening.
It is an honor to meet you again, mister.
This is His Excellency Richard Bell, the Bishop of Carlisle.
My goodness, my apologies, Your Grace. The portly man gently waved away my apology.
Worry not. I have met no one else in a situation as unique as yours. I realize this all must be very strange to you.
He knows?
Yes.
Which presumably means Angela knows now, too.
Yeah.
So was she... Was she only told recently, then?
Or did she always know? That's a great question.
What would be the point of being so circumspect about it if she always knew?
Yeah.
And, wait, didn't Superior say that she didn't trust anyone?
Yeah.
So what changed her mind about Angela?
Yeah. What does the bishop know? Okay. Okay, so Superior has decided to fill in Angela now.
I see.
But why? That's very interesting.
Well, all right, let's let it play out a bit. This is fascinating.
I briefed both him and Angela on the extent of our investigation this afternoon.
I could not believe it. I gawped at Angela, who made a point of looking straight past me.
My travels have brought me here a little earlier than expected. It's such a tragic situation. I felt I should be more present than my usual monthly visit for the sacramental hours. I'll be here for just over a week to offer counsel to the grieving.
And our investigation shall continue apace.
The man sighed heavily.
I appreciate your diligence, but it sounds to me as if you're staring at staring the answer in the face and refusing to believe it.
I do not think it's that simple. I believe, as does Hedwig, after her own extensive research, that James Foreman is innocent.
Which would mean one of your charges is a murderer. How do you entertain such a ghastly idea?
Call it one of my hunches. Have I been wrong before?
Mabel, come now.
Have I?
Is that our first time learning the soup's name?
Yep.
What have your other hunches been?
I told you that I had a bad feeling about building a clock tower onto the side of the chapel. I think there's...
yeah.
Okay.
Just
my brain broke for a second there.
No, you're there. There's a typo there.
Okay.
You do have to finish the thought.
Was
though.
a foolish idea. And lo and behold, it fell down not a month into construction.
Lucky guess.
I have a storied career of lucky guesses then, Your Excellency. Before I was appointed abbess, this place was on death's doorstep. I have cultivated and pruned it into a garden. A simple one, perhaps, but a garden nonetheless.
I do not mean to insult you, Mabel, but the fact is my respect for your work that gives me much such pause. I could believe that one of the sisters you preside over, many of whom came to the church under your selection, would be capable of such a thing.
The superior did not have an answer for this. I recall that I could hear her teeth grinding in the ensuing silence.
To applaud your ingenuity in recognizing that Hedwig here would be an impartial observer, but it seems to me this whole situation has gotten out of hand. Please forgive this hypothetical, dear sister, but why is Angela part of this trusted circle now?
I would like to note that I too believe James Foreman is guilty.
I'm just entertaining your superior's logic for a moment, if you'll allow me.
Of course.
Well, Mabel, Hedwig I understand, but what places Angela above suspicion?
Sister Angela is my prior. It would be impossible, as well as unethical, for me to continue to keep this investigation from her. She found James and accused him to begin with. I should like to put her belief through its paces.
She is to be your successor.
Indeed. And while I disagree with her position on Mr. Foreman's alleged crime, I love and respect her. I would like this to be a learning experience for her.
My dearest Mabel, you know I love and respect all of you nuns. Why then must you believe that one of them is a killer? And why couldn't it be Angela?
The superior and Angela looked at each other. Angela grimaced. Well, grimaced more prominently than usual.
I can account for all of my movements the night Catherine was murdered.
I'm sure everyone here can.
And they can be vouched for.
Oh?
Angela was in my office at the likeliest time of Catherine's slaying.
In your office?
Complaining. I was vigorously arguing against the misapplication of yet more of the Abbey's funds, and requesting action be taken against some of our sisters' poor behavior.
Is this consistent with what the soup told us earlier? We should go back and look at the beginning, because I thought from the beginning she was like, it could be anyone.
Mm-hmm.
If she was literally there with Angela at what she says the most likely, that's not perfect exoneration, but I guess maybe she made a judgment call?
Maybe.
Anyway.
There might have been more items on my list. It is my responsibility as prior to check the superior when I sense things are wrong. Nobody could possibly overlook your diligence.
Mean to tell her that your alibi was that she was arguing with you long enough to be sure she was not involved. Forgive me, but that sounds rather unbelievable.
The superior and I exchanged a glance. Angela looked away and exhaled sharply.
It's true.
All eyes turned to me. As ludicrous as the story sounded, I thought back to my conversations with the superior in her office. Those walls and that door were thick. As angry as it made me to imagine Catherine's death being overlooked by the Abbey's authorities simply because they were bickering, it was all too plausible. And it doesn't mean that Angela's not, an accomplice.
Yeah,
Right? It could be her job to keep the soup busy.
could be.
Not sure I agree with the soup's move here. I wonder if there's something else motivating her. That is believable, actually.
My goodness. I'll do my best to stay on your good side, Sister Angela.
I will keep that in mind, Your Excellency.
Why didn't you tell me this before? Either of you.
I had hoped to inform you last night, as it happens.
I thought back to the events of the previous evening. Angela had indeed said something to me before leaving the Misericorde. Or rather, before she was practically chased out by Catherine with a K. My understanding of these events suddenly felt a little clearer. Certainly explained why Catherine with a K bristled so much at Angela's presence. So... But then why was she... Okay, so Angela gets pissy and thinks that we're being groomed to be the new soup. Follows us around and gets pissy about it. Finally gets angry enough to go to the soup herself. And the soup's like... Okay, listen. That's not what's going on here, buddy.
That could be.
And then decides to let her in at that point. Like, it seems likely, but... Again, that's a big leap the soup is putting on Angela here. Mabel. I'm going to call her Mabel now.
Did Catherine perhaps detect an ulterior motive in Angela? The same motive that so far nobody had detected in me?
I made the decision very recently, the day before yesterday, in fact. It has been conspicuous enough to have you emerge from your cell and start poking around into these horrific events. Two of you at once would have been a touch obvious, I should think. I would have refused to do it.
And now...
Now it would seem that I have no choice, Your Excellency. We are in a strange situation, to be sure, but I think between us we can make sure justice is done.
I will stay out of your way, then. I do not wish to involve myself in any, investigation. Feels rather wrong for me to be anything other than a partial visitor.
Of course. However, if anything suspicious is told to you throughout the course of your counseling...
Suspicious? Where would the line be? I believe I'm giving you ample leeway to deal with the situation the way you see fit, right? I can think of precious few members of the diocese that would accept your actions in this situation, let alone grant you the freedom to make half the decisions you have made in the first place.
I understand.
Moving an anchoress from her cell is such a unique course of action, I could not even know where to begin explaining it to the Archbishop. I'm sure there's even precedent on the books for... I'm not sure there's even precedent on the books for how you might be punished if the situation came to light. I, for all of our sakes, hope that your radical decisions here at least yield some results. If they did, I might have an easier time preventing you from being excommunicated. Or worse.
I felt a lump building in my throat. I've been so preoccupied with my own fragile situation at the Abbey that I hadn't even considered the wider world of church politicking.
We will solve this mystery, and I will be vindicated.
I truly hope so. England is at war with itself, and the last thing the church needs is to appear weak and ineffectual. It must be a beacon at all times. It's a standard for the world to live up to.
We will not fail.
Very well.
There was a moment of silence as we all collected ourselves. The superior looked grimmer than I had ever seen her. She breathed deeply and seemed to stare right through the bishop, who was offering Angela and I an apologetic smile. Nobody spoke. There was little else to add, I suppose. The bishop turned to the superior, his mood suddenly cheerful.
I understand that you're performing in a moment, no? It would be an honor to attend.
Yes. Yes, of course.
She snapped out of her dark expression.
We have just had a feast day for Saint Cecilia, and I shall be performing a short composition in her honor.
How delightful. Now, when you say short, do you mean short, or do you mean... It's a short composition, but you're gonna jam on it for like another 12 minutes?
I mean that it will fit on one LP.
That's... Those haven't been invented yet.
Angela and Hedwig, I would like you two to meet with me in my office once we are done here. I would like you two to share your... Oh, hello. Am I still too early? No, come in, take a seat.
Catherine's smile evaporated when she saw Angela and I standing together. She looked away and busied herself with the doorstop so the rest of the sisters could flow in. Everyone else trickled in behind her.
and it was Margaret hanging back to whisper something to Catherine with a K, who reacted to whatever Margaret had told her with an expression of bewilderment. She shook her head and shrugged. Margaret looked oddly panicked, but whatever Catherine meant with that gesture seemed to have put her mildly at ease. Just about to turn away when her eyes met with mine. I whirled away, hoping she did not feel as if I had been spying on her. The gaggle of nuns that had entered the chapel was haphazardly morphing into an orderly line to greet the bishop, who was standing near the front of the room. He had put on a hat in the intervening moments and looked much more grander all of a sudden. And behind him, the superior fiddled with the portative organ. So what was that little back and forth with Catherine and Margaret? I wonder. And guess we'll have to find out next time. I don't think we have much more in Volume 1 to go.
Damn.
Judging from I've looked at the playlists for other completed because there are other completed playthroughs of this game now. There weren't when we started. So I have a vague idea of how much more we have left. We probably only have 1 or 2 more episodes. So
impressive.
Yeah. We'll look forward to it. See you then, everyone. Bye.
Peace.
Smash that like, comment and subscribe.